Are your relationships microwave safe or are they slow cooked? Let's talk about it. Guys, what's going on? Welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity, and up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah. You guys see all my little post-its. If you're watching this, I have been, as a writer, I think my world becomes, I don't know, every canvas kind of becomes something that I see a story or that I see a quote or that I see an experience. And I think for me, I'm always writing. There's always a narrative going on in my head. And I know something I heard recently, they were saying how some people don't have an inner dialogue going on. And I'm like, what? How? Like, why? This thing does not turn off. This is why I write so much. This is why I have so many different avenues to communicate, not just talk or say things out loud, because I am very comfortable with silence. Actually, it's a preferred, but to actually communicate certain things that are that feel like saying the quiet part out loud. And I think recently one of the things that I definitely set on and really leaned into was this concept of I think culturally we have very fast food, microwave safe tendencies in terms of our interpersonal relationships. And we want everything quickly. You know, we want the best quality, but we want it very quickly. Like, we have a certain immediacy to instant gratification. And I think, or I've observed that with immediacy comes a lack of discipline, comes a lack of ability to value things properly, right? You know, sometimes the things that we get in excess, we start to become nose blind to. And this is why I think as people, we don't really value each other to a certain capacity, because we just want the deepest parts of other people while still giving shallow effort. So, you know, you put something in a microwave, for example. The first thing I think about is like, Hot Pockets. You know, back in the day, you used to put a Hot Pocket in the microwave, and sometimes when you bite into it, it's still frozen in the center. Like, the outside burns you, right? You bite into a certain part where it's like, oh, damn, this is hot. Let me let it cool off. And then you go for another bite, and then it's still frozen on the inside. And I think that's what we've been experiencing collectively in our interpersonal relationships. See, everybody wants the hot and heavy. You know, we talk about wanting vulnerability from other people. We talk about wanting somebody who's emotionally available. We talk about wanting somebody who's consistent. We talk about wanting somebody who's intentional. But we need to finish that sentence, because a lot of times when we say we want somebody who's vulnerable, for example, we want somebody who's vulnerable at our convenience, right? So when I say I want somebody who's vulnerable, what does that actually mean, right? Do I want somebody to actually share how much I mean to them, or do I want somebody to also share how my behavior impacts them and how uncertain they feel about their relationship with me? Because that's vulnerable, right? Do I want somebody who is emotionally available in the sense of, oh, someone who's a good listener, right? Someone who knows how to listen and can hold my pain when I'm having a rough day, or when I'm going through things, or when I need to talk about something that's weighing me down, and they have the ability to hold space for me or comfort me? Or do I want somebody who recognizes my inconsistencies and my emotionally avoidant tendencies, or my lack of emotional maturity, right? When I say I want somebody who's intentional, then I want somebody who, you know, remembers the little details. They show up, they make plans, they commit, they prioritize. Do I like that part? Or do I also embrace the person who is very intentional about recognizing how they're treated in the relationship? They recognize the imbalances, right? They say what they mean, and they expect me to do the same. So when they make a commitment, they're also expecting to be met with the same level of effort and intention and care. See, and that's where the microwave safety comes from, or the microwave food, because we want what we want when we want it. Okay, and we've used therapy speak to bypass personal responsibility. You know, I remember when boundaries started becoming a conversation, everybody was talking about having a boundary, right? And it became very bastardized. It became very overused to the point where people only heard, oh, a boundary is you can't ask or expect anything from me. And if I want to opt out of anything, I can just do that. Overlooking that a boundary will always be personal responsibility, right? When we set a boundary, that means that we have to adhere to it too. It's not about, hey, you can't do this. It's like, hey, if these things don't take place, this is what happens, which means that I have to make an uncomfortable adjustment. I can't demand it from you. And a lot of people have weaponized boundaries to control the emotional engagement or the engagement of their interpersonal relationship. So somebody may say, well, a boundary for me is I don't need to be on my phone all the time, right? And you should just get that. So what are you expecting from other people? Because when you reach out to other people, what are you expecting? You're expecting closeness, you're expecting attention, you're expecting acknowledgement, right? Regardless of when you do it, but it's on your terms. And this is why our relationships kind of exist in this very interesting limbo, because while everybody is wanting someone else to show their heart first or show their cards, we sit back with our arms crossed and we expect people to give us everything that we don't feel obligated to show up with. So now there becomes this discrepancy. And this is why a lot of relationships are lukewarm, right? And we can even talk about breadcrumbing as a concept too, because I think that is something that people overlook, or being emotionally controlling of a relational dynamic, right? Breadcrumbing can be very much the person that says, yeah, we don't need to talk all the time. But when we do, it should be all cool. We all have busy lives. Insert. Okay, so what are you expecting, or what do you expect to happen to a relationship that you're not participating in? And if you are reaching out to somebody after an extended period of time, what is your goal, right? Obviously, you're reaching out to them for a reason, especially if they haven't reached out to you. What are your intentions, okay? And sometimes we do this thing where we reach out to people just to see if we still have access, you know, temperature checking. And as dubious as it is, as you know, as selfish as it can be, I think a lot of times we try to downplay the dysregulation that comes from people who operate that way. Because while you are looking to get your fix, right, you are not looking to fix or repair or construct the relationship in such a way that it has a solid foundation to stand on. All right, you're just getting your needs met. And people won't often admit that, or say, hey, I'm a very selfish, self-centered person or self-oriented person, and how I navigate my relationships is what can I get from this space without very little investment. Most people aren't going to say that. The reason why is because, well, you're going to lose out on a lot of connections. If you were honest about what you were doing, and if that's honestly how you move and that's your truth, a lot of people wouldn't want to be bothered. Which is why you realize the people who are always saying they want low maintenance friends or low maintenance relationships are never seeking out low maintenance people when they need care. Why is that? Because if this person is low maintenance, then a lot of times they're actually low effort. They have low capacity to take care of me. So more often than not, I will gravitate towards a person who I know will meet my needs, who they will support me. And then I can dip out and say, hey, well, that's my boundary. See, truth of the matter is, the reason why our relationships don't feel that deep is because we are not willing to go there. We are not willing to be inconvenienced. We are not willing to take time out for people. I think we so often are eager to show and tell people how important we are. You know, I got kids, you don't. I have a marriage, you don't. I got a job that I work however many hours a week and you don't. And the goalpost is always going to be moved. if the goal is to always be more important, and if the goal is to always shield yourself from negligence or the awareness of your negligence in terms of your interpersonal relationships, right? And the thing about it is cool, right? I think one of the things we have trouble with is leaving people alone because we don't want to be left alone. So if you tell somebody that you don't have the capacity for them and they should just get that, and a person adjusts to that, we get upset. Well, what are we saying in that moment when we get upset? Hey, I don't like being deprioritized. I don't like not having my needs met, right? I have expectations of this relationship. So the same ways we tell people that they should not have expectations of others, we always have expectations. Everybody does, right? You expect to get paid at that job. You expect to still come home to the family that you have. You expect to still come home to that partner and they love you. You expect to go to the grocery store and get what you need. You expect to get gas in your car or charge your car. You expect, or we expect, every situation that we step into has an expectation tied to it. It's just a matter of understanding what that expectation is, right? So when it comes to our connections, I think one of the things we have to understand and accept is that we need to grow up. And we really do need to grow in our adult relationships versus wanting to posture as adults when it comes to us not having responsibility. And what I mean by that is like the double standard of, well, I'm an adult and I have a life and I get to choose and do what I want, right? Well, there's consequences to that. There's responsibility that comes with that. And then we try to infantilize our capacity or inability to show up. So it's like, hey, which one is it? And the thing about it, as adults, our relationships are always a choice. So the same way we are choosing when we want to show up and when we don't want to, other people get to choose when they see how we operate. And that's what we don't like, right? In our adult relationships, there are more variables that come into play. Yes, there are relationships. Yes, there is work demands. Yes, there's all of that. But what are we willing to contribute to the things that we say we desire? Or do we feel entitled to a lot of things that we don't want to put effort towards? And one of the most honest questions you could ask yourself is like, hey, do I just simply like being taken care of in my relationships? Or do I actually desire to be a participant?